Thank you. I really just want this to be not so serious. It's such a serious topic because the women, I'm so honored to be with these women today because if you don't know them, they're incredible women that have had really bad things happen to them. And we don't even, okay, Hong, sit down here. Michelle, sit there. Monthanus, sit there. We were all worried about the seating arrangement. So I'm just super excited and honored to be sitting here with you women. They have really transformed the narrative where we aren't victims, where they have become victims and we don't want to be victims anymore. And they're turning their grief and trauma to positivity, courage, and work in the community. And not to be afraid to speak out when maybe some of us are afraid to speak out and still don't want to, and know that this is a really brave thing that we do. And I feel like if we keep seeing it and we keep hearing it, more people will do it. So now you guys have messed up my notes. So, Hong Lee just came from Los Angeles, president co-founder of Seniors Fight Back. In August 2020, a racially motivated hate incident involving her, and she recorded it at a Korean restaurant in Los Angeles, went viral. Nobody came to her defense in this video, and she wanted to do something to help victims, and she started her nonprofit. Michelle Lee, my new best friend from St. Louis, president and co-founder of the Very Asian Foundation with my colleague and my amazing friend there, Gia Vang. I want to give her a shout out too because we love her. Award-winning journalist, anchor, reporter at KSDK. A racist voicemail from a viewer about eating dumplings for a tradition that all of us enjoy became a global movement of unity, and she got, the eyes of Ellen DeGeneres and so many people. Last but not least, my dear friend who I've interviewed and talked to so many times, Monthanus Ratanapakdee, CEO and founder of Justice for Vicha Ratanapakdee. It's been 3 years, more than 3 years. I think it was 3 years. We just celebrated the death of her father during Grandpa Vicha that we all know through as Grandpa Vicha, and it ignited the Stop Asian movement, and I think it really triggered this fire in all of us that nobody was speaking up, and then all of a sudden the video just went global. And Monthanus now has fought for justice. Unfortunately, delays in court. We still have no trial date. And but she has honored her father's legacy with 2 street namings, a third to come in May. And she wants her father's name to be in the name of all civil rights nationwide. So these amazing women, can we just give them a hand before we start? Okay, so I'm just going to start, very informal. Okay. Please. Each of you, I'm going to start with you, Hong. Tell me about the moment. Let's talk more about that video and why you decided it was important for you to do something.
When I was waiting in line just to order my lunch, a man came up to me, handed me his business card, and asked me to go to lunch with him. I respectfully declined, and he told me to go back to Asia, followed by 2 minutes of hateful, derogatory, and sexist remarks. Afterwards, I started recording it just because I didn't know if he would attack me, if it would become physical. I was getting cornered in, and he's about 300 pounds. I'm only 120. He's 6'3". I'm only 5'3". So I knew that size and weight wasn't towards my advantage. And so recording was the only option I had. And about 2 minutes after the incident, I decided to call 911 for myself. And when the officer arrived about 30 minutes later, he told me, "This is normal. It happens all the time. Just get in your car and go home." And when my husband arrived, we went home, and I wanted to protect the privacy of my family because we had 2 very young children at the time, ages 1 and 3. But I also wanted to bring light to what happened. This was early in 2020 when the pandemic just started, and I heard about all these attacks that were happening towards the AAPI community, but I just never saw a video as horrific as the incident that I encountered. And so that's when I realized I need to share this, because I was born and raised in the United States of America, and never once has someone ever told me to go back to Asia, which was just very shocking to me, especially in the year 2020. After sharing the video, 5 other victims came forward, including minors, that recognized the man from my video and stated they were also assaulted by the same man, which then prompted action from the city attorney's office. And so that was the point where I realized I had to step out of my comfort zone. And like I shared with Christine yesterday, I grew up very shy, very timid, just kept in the corner. You probably wouldn't even have noticed me if I was in class. I would have probably just been the quietest kid in class. But I had to step out of my comfort zone to speak up, because my incident was one of the first ones to actually receive media attention. And so I knew I had to continue speaking up, and I never intended to become a public speaker on this platform, but somehow it happened and I became an advocate for the community, and I also did it for my children as well.
Monthanus, I think we would say collectively in this room, a lot of people have seen the video of your dad. How do you, like listening to Hong, where do you told me before you find strength in these movements and in the younger generation? Can you talk about the start of Vicha Ratanapakdee, the foundation, and just kind of what your goals are moving forward as you try to wait for the trial date to happen?
My trial date is after 3 years. We did not get justice, and kept keeping a delay. And the first time when go to the court hearing, and then I got support, like 1,000 people come to my hearings to supporting me, and then that's why I'm studying I cannot be silent and stand up for myself and my kids. My mom, 71 years old, could not speak English, and then I requesting for the Thai interpreter for my hearing, and then former DA office not providing for me. And I'm feeling like our Asian American battle language, they did not reporting hate crime. So that's why I'm stand up for advocate for the victim right. Yeah.
Thank you, Monthanus. I know that you still blame yourself a lot, right? You say you talk to your dad a lot. You blame yourself quite a bit for what happened. Where do you find the courage to, this is the ultimate loss, where do you find the courage to continue to come here, speak? This is a position that you would probably never want to be in. None of us do, but this is the ultimate loss.
Yeah, the first time I'm hiding myself in closet, crying every day. One day is my 11 years old, just told me, pull me out from the grief. And he recommended me to do the mural in the Chinatown, Grand in California. That's why we got a mural, Grandpa Vicha, Justice for Vicha, to combat the anti-Asian hate. Thank you for Jonathan Chang for do the portrait for all the victims of the anti-Asian hate. And that's why I'm feeling like I can turn my sadness to be a positive thing to can get the impact for our community.
Thank you so much. I know everyone is so appreciative here too for your voice. Michelle, your incident that happened to you was something that I feel that many of us have probably also faced in a different way. Can you please just tell us a little about the call and how you decided, instead of turning that into such a negative thing, how you decided to make that into something where everybody can be uplifted?
Sure. Well, so I've been a broadcast journalist for 20 years, all around the country. North Carolina, Wisconsin, Missouri, Southwest Missouri, which is a distinction from St. Louis, and Seattle. And so I loved being in Seattle, but Seattle, as you may remember, was the first known case of COVID, and everything shut down. My job changed immediately. I lost childcare immediately, and my son was 1 year old too. And then people were getting attacked in Chinatown International District. And so that was very scary because I couldn't take my son anywhere. I thought, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do if I get hurt? What am I gonna do if he gets hurt? So I was always really worried about that. My mom passed away in Missouri. So I was born in Korea, but I was adopted by literally white labor, low to middle to low income farmer type folks. And so when my mom died, she died suddenly, and I thought, like, everything is falling apart in Seattle. We really do need help. And so we went home. Actually, my husband's hometown is St. Louis. Mine is Kansas City. And 6 months into it, so I talked about eating dumplings. And not a big deal, but someone called and said, your Asian anchor was being, what did she say? What did she say, Gia? Very Asian, yeah. Your Asian anchor was talking about eating dumplings, and I kind of take offense to that because if a white person did that, they would be fired. She was being very Asian. She was annoying. She needs to talk about what white people, I mean, it just went on, and I literally just said, and I had dumpling soup, and the thing was, like, coming back to Missouri, that was exactly what I thought was going to happen. And, because you're on television, also, people don't know that you're adopted. People don't know that you could be potentially Missourian, It just really pissed me off, to be honest. Because if anyone knows me, they know how much work I've done to be connected to Korea, to help my biological family, one of my sisters, immigrate here, to go back to Korea, to spend all my extra money on Korea trips. And so I just shared that video of me listening to it because I knew that I couldn't share the voicemail, honestly, straight up, because then that would be an issue. Right? I already knew I was going to get in trouble by my newsroom, potentially. But I shared it because I was so upset. And it went viral. It went crazy viral. And what the beautiful thing about it was that Gia saw it first, and she said, I guess I'm being, hashtag very Asian, and shared Hmong foods and traditions. And we had such a tremendous response from like folks in Germany and Australia and, Korea and Japan. It was really lovely, and so many multicultural and multi-ethnic situations that were shared and celebrated. And so from that moment, like, I realized it is a privilege to be on TV, but I had a chance to do kind of this commentary. And I said, even though that was ugly and racist, it wasn't the worst thing that's ever happened. There are people who are getting assaulted and killed. But like, as a journalist, sometimes, like, I'm still the only Asian person on air, period. You can walk down the street and people don't know your background or how much work you've done or all these different things. And so I said, even though it was really ugly, I thought it was a gift. And so that's how we launched the foundation, the Very Asian Foundation, which I love making people say.
Yeah. We're talking about from pain to power. If I can just ask each one of you, we'll start with Hong. We know how exhausting this work is, and it seems like it's never ending, and the needle maybe just kind of like does a little blip and it goes back down, or we go 2 steps forward, it goes 10 steps backwards. How do you keep moving forward, and what inspires you to keep this work? Because it could be really defeating and deflating so many times.
So when we launched our nonprofit, Seniors Fight Back, just to offer free self-defense classes for the community, it was actually after the murder of Mr. Vicha, and then after the mass shooting that occurred in Atlanta as well. And we saw all these people that looked like our grandpas, our grandmas, our aunts, our uncles, our moms, our dads, continue to get attacked. Yet we didn't have anything tangible to be able to help them with. And so we launched tools and resources. So we gave free self-defense classes and focuses on non-evasive, situational awareness, body language, voice. Only if they still want to attack you will we then teach the physical portion, which is the clinch, the elbow, the knee. As an additional measure, we give them safety alarms and pepper spray. And I could tell you for nearly the past 4 years, each and every day, just constantly watching all these videos of attacks and constantly hearing them happen and seeing videos, it feels like we weren't actually making a difference. But every single class, we were reminded that someone would come up to us and tell us they were recently shoved, they were recently robbed, they were recently a victim. And I can tell you, I saw a lady 3 weeks after her attack. She had bruises all over her face, all over her arms, her legs, and I'll never forget her because I was begging her to please, let's report, let me get you help. Let me get you medical assistance, anything I could do to help you. But she said, no, my children don't know about it, and I don't want to tell anybody what happened to me. And time after time, each and every single class we go to. We've hosted over 40 classes already in the last 3 years. I continue seeing people that continue telling me that they're attacked. And we've also had people come up to us to tell us that after they took our class, they've used some of the tools that they learned. There was a girl that was followed, and just using situational awareness, she realized somebody was walking behind her, and she found some place similar to like a convent. She ran in there, and she was worried. Poor thing was worried she was going to lose her laptop for work, that they were going to steal it. So she ran in there for help. Luckily, she was able to get away from the person. But that's what motivates me to continue going on. In addition to that, my child, the single thing that I worried about the most during COVID was what would happen if he goes to school, which he did start school during COVID, is how do I teach him about racism at such a young age, going into school at 4 years old? How do I tell him that to prepare him for these things that may happen? And what if he encounters something similar to what I did and got judged by the color of his own skin? And a few months ago, it actually happened. I don't think he's in the room now, so I don't want to mention it. Oh, he is. Okay, never mind. Okay, thank you. Thank you. He was judged by the color of his skin. He was told he was UGLY because of his skin color. Until this day, he still asks me, Mom, am I UGLY? And absolutely breaks my heart because that's exactly what I'm trying to fight against. And so that's what's keeping me going.
Ooh, okay, I'm gonna take a deep breath. Okay, Michelle, I would say what inspires you, and also, that was one of the questions I was gonna ask because we talked about this yesterday. Is all the panelists up here are mothers of young children. How do you have discussions like this? Because everything that you guys are doing up here is really trying to change that narrative. Michelle, what inspires you to move in this work? Because Michelle gets up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and then anchors like 3 hours of news. How do you continue to do this volunteer work?
I think a lot of it is because of the community response. My son is always my motivator. And we have those really difficult conversations too, and in a way that, I talk very plainly to him. And I do that just because I feel like that's who I am as a person, that's who I am as a news person. But even to me, it starts with who's telling the stories in your community, right? A lot of places around the country, if you look at the Asian American Journalists Association, they did just a quick glance at the stations across the country, the top 20 stations. So that includes New York, LA, Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, San Francisco, the Bay Area. So many Asian people, sometimes it's just one Asian person at a station. God forbid you put 2 Asian people sitting next to each other. Now, I know that's not an issue here necessarily, but you're talking about the vast majority of America, right? And so I always say, well, who's telling Asian American stories? Who has an interest in telling Asian American stories if no one's interested? Well, okay. And then if someone is interested, do you really want those people telling the stories too? Gia and I know this, someone said from Memphis, they said, hey, we really need your support. We've got a little Asian American group. We want to do a thing in May. Can you donate some books? Absolutely. But then I called my friends in Memphis and I said, hey, is there an Asian American community member or maybe a news person? And my friend was like, I'm really sorry, we don't have any Asian Americans on TV. I'm the first East Asian in St. Louis in its 75-year history. And to me, the thing that motivates me is if you knew St. Louis history, or if you knew a lot of Midwest history, you had to go east to west and west to east. St. Louis was a huge hub, especially when train service was. We had the first Asian on record in St. Louis well before the Civil War. There was a Chinatown for 100 years that was demolished in the 1960s. So people should remember this, and people have forgotten it completely. We had the 1904 World's Fair, which everyone loves to talk about in St. Louis, except for there was a Philippine village, also known as a human zoo. So there are all these things where we're trying to reclaim history so that we can do better because we know better. That really influences me because I feel like, and motivates me because I feel like if we can get that taught at the kindergarten level or age appropriate, whatever, right? Then people understand where they belong. When I talk to high schoolers and they find out that there was a Chinatown for 100 years, their whole experience changes, right? Because they would go to the grocery store, and this was happening in Seattle too. They would go to the grocery store and get called a bat eater, go back to your country, all this stuff. But when they know that they were here before Civil War, they light up. It just changes. So to me, it's, this advocacy work through journalism, through storytelling, getting the whole community involved. I mean, even St. Louis has this thing where they have the St. Paul sandwich. I don't know if you've ever had it, but it was really this solidarity moment. This is debatable, but this supposed solidarity between Black and Asian communities because, just like St. Louis is quote unquote very black and white. That's what people say. I don't say that necessarily. But because of that, the service, a lot of people had to use Chinese launders or they had to go to Chinese grocery stores. This was happening in the middle of the country too. And I say there's a lot of grit. If you have to move to St. Louis or Minneapolis or wherever, then you have to build community, and you've been building community for many, many years. But it's not in history. It's not in schools. It's not in the news. And if you can't see yourself as a main character at your own school, in your own city government, in your state legislature, then you don't have a seat at the table at all. So I know the population's there, but we just have to really encourage more storytelling from a truth-seeking perspective, get the buy-in, or don't get the buy-in, just do it. But change the trajectory, because it changes the trajectory of the community, and you can immediately see it in the eyes of young people.
Yeah, I have to definitely, just speaking on the advocacy through journalism, like that's been one of the biggest passions, like Gia and I kind of doing this back and forth, because just down the street from us is the largest Chinatown outside of Asia, like, and the oldest. And we take that for granted so much. But when you go in there, because people are like, oh, I don't know, it's so foreign, nobody knows. But I go, but we all should know, like on both sides. The businesses should know the people should know the businesses. And I think that here in the Bay Area, we are so, because we have such a large population, we take something for granted when all the Chinatowns across the nation are dying. Like they have like a bridge or an arch, and that's it. We have blocks. We have businesses, we have lanterns. We're having a night market on Friday once a month, for goodness sake. Like, what the heck is going on? So we need to continue we have the oldest, like, Cameron House. I mean, we just have so much in this neighborhood, and I'm with you on that history, because I say if we don't know things and how people came over and why they came over and why they fought to came over and why there still is a Chinatown that exists, because we were so smart. Back in the day, when they first came here, they put their stuff down first, and they couldn't kick us out. And that's the grit. That's like, I don't know what you want to call it, but that's just survival. And I feel that we forget that in our history. Sidetrack, Monthanus. I'm for that. Okay. Your inspiration and how you continue to do what you're doing too.
Yeah, like Michelle said, it's not only in the middle of the country. So in the realities, in our community too, 80% is Asian Americans are underreporting for the hate crimes. So because they're not trusting in the system, they don't want to barrel language is a problem in our community. Asian American, like elderly people, they feel fear and retaliation to the reporting hate crime. And also in the education, the student, young generation youth got the bully with the cyber bully, by in person or online. This is a problem in the education. I think we should have a website to get the people to get reporting, not feel fear on the system for the government to do that for our Asian American. Yeah, something.
Yeah, I think education is
very important.
Is lacking so much.
Yeah.
And also just like looking at data, right? So like we know that Asian Americans now have the largest wealth disparity. That's what is it? Asian American youth, the #1 cause of death is suicide.
That's Palo Alto.
Yes.
That's the #1 in the country.
Yes.
It's our Bay Area.
Right, and so we have to, once you know data and research and you have numbers, then you can make change and you can force change, and you can go to your city or you can go to your government. You can say, we need more awareness so we can work on this together.
So, but basically right now, our community have to help, like you said, help each other if your son or your child come to you, to parents and need help, you have to help them. If young generation, your parents cannot speak English, barrel language, you have to help them. This is we have the first step to have to starting for our community.
I'm going to ask one more question, and do we have time for questions from people in the audience? Okay, I don't know what time this ends. Amelia, what is it?
The next panel is at 12:45.
Oh, okay, great.
Oh.
So we'll do a couple questions on this. Sorry, I don't know. Okay. Sorry. Remember,
have
keep it
time
light.
for the
Informal. Right.
audience
We
to
will
ask
have audience questions. I just want to talk about the mental health aspect of this because we've all kind of had our own experiences and our own journeys. How do you deal with your own, there's so many triggers, right? Whatever that trigger may be, it could come at any moment. Triggers can come when you don't expect triggers to come. How do you deal with that mental space when you're doing this work to continue? I don't talk about the importance of mental health. Monthanus, do you want to start there?
My father is tragic death, and then everyone saw the video, right? And I don't want my child to see that happen on and on because he's teen, and then I don't want him to see that's the right or wrong because when people murder, push the elderly, die, that's why I'm seeking to see the therapist right away for them. And my mom is a dementia, 71 years old, and I'm taking care of them right away. But I forget to taking care of myself. I want to ensure everyone as a victim to get this happen to you, you have to take care of yourself right away for the mental health.
Yeah, after my incident happened, I didn't even realize it. Everyone that kept asking me, would you like to see a counselor? Would you like any assistance? I kept saying, no, I'm fine. I feel okay, I'll get over it. But in hindsight, looking back, I actually had PTSD. I had insomnia. I couldn't sleep for the following month. Every time I went outside, I was afraid. I didn't know if the next person would start screaming and yelling at me, if this would happen again. And so the first time I went outside was actually at another restaurant, and there was a person inside. He didn't do anything. He was just ordering his food. But I was afraid. And walks in an officer and a firefighter, and I just felt relieved because if anything happened, at least somebody was there to hopefully help me and whatnot. And so it wasn't until later on that I really realized I did need to seek assistance to really talk through what I was going through and to be able to really heal. And so I luckily was able to connect to LA County's LA versus Hate Initiative to be able to get victims resources. But now I actually get the honor and privilege of being their ambassador to help connect other victims to resources. And so I'm grateful to organizations like NextShark, Jackfruit, all these ones that are getting the videos and talking to victims firsthand. For the ones that at least happen in Los Angeles County, I'm able to connect them to counseling, legal aid, medical assistance, reimbursement for lost wages, which I was very lucky because I had people reaching out to me to offer these resources. A lot of times victims don't know that these resources are available to help them. And so behind the scenes, I'm able to just connect people and also to escalate their cases as well.
That's incredible. Mental health.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, you have 3 kids. I mean,
3 little boys.
Great.
Oh.
Wow. I mean, pain to power for real right here. Pain to power for real right here. Michelle, okay, we're through here.
Sorry.
Michelle, your mental state
Mental
of
health.
mental health. Like I laugh a lot, or I just make fun of myself. But
Well, I
No,
do
I
too. I
do.
do too. I do too. Well, here's the problem. Like, I think having nonprofit work is very similar to journalism work in the sense that it never ends. There is a constant level of stress. There's a constant level of like the next thing and not having enough. Like I don't, like if I'm writing a story, I'm on deadline. I don't have enough time. I don't have, don't have enough resources. So in many ways, that is a very easy launch into something like a nonprofit. At the same time, we all have 24 hours in the day. So there have been times, if I'm being really honest, and everyone who knows me knows this, I'm always like, I gained 15 pounds this year. I lost my hair. Like there's, I don't know why I always tell people that, but it just makes me feel better. But it's the idea of like this work is work, and so much of it is unpaid work. And to get the money that you want, then you got to do more unpaid work because it's like you got to maybe make a deck or a presentation. Then you got to go to the place. You got to travel. And I love it, but I also have a really demanding job. And then my most important thing, I'm an IVF gal, so which is also another issue, stressing me out in the world today. But I worked really hard to build my family, and so I really want to spend time with my son. So that all has to, intersect. I don't believe in work-life balance. I don't think it's a real thing. I think work and life intersect. So how can we make it intersect to where we don't lose a bunch of hair and gain 15 pounds every year? I pulled a chunk out this morning, and I was like, oh gosh. So I'm sorry. But I'm passionate. I love it. But the reality is that everyone, even who's showing up today, it's work. It's great work. Hopefully you leave, fulfilled and you feel good. But it is like it's a lot to put on an event. It's a lot to get volunteers together. It's a lot to make arrangements or to prepare for a panel. All those things, can leave you exhausted.
Yeah, wake up at 8:00 in the morning on a Sunday, but hey, we all here. Okay, so I guess I'm going to really open it up. We have 15 minutes. I have other questions. I just feel that this is a great panel. That if you guys have any questions for these amazing women, please. Oh, what? Two questions only. As I'm telling. Okay, I'm getting all these signals. 2 questions. Does anyone have any questions?
I commend all of you for having the courage to come up here and channel your internal, pain for the greater good of the community. So you have these wonderful local organizations, and how are there ways to make some communication so the power of your local organizations are fed into something national? What do you do to communicate that? And do you know of national organizations that try to unify all these different diverse, causes that you're trying to implement?
I can start with that one. So our organization actually was just collaborated with Los Angeles County, and we received a grant to actually film our virtual training video. So we actually have a 20-minute compilation of the entire class that we have, and it's actually being translated to Mandarin, Cantonese, Vietnamese, Korean, Cambodian, Spanish, and there's one more, Japanese, Tagalog, yes. And so that is actually going to be completed this month, and so that's actually going to be rolled out nationwide.
Oh, that's great.
And so we know that everyone is not going to be able to attend our classes. We provided training to 6,000 people in person so far, but we're hoping that this is actually going to be able to reach more people, especially people that are in nursing homes, senior centers, are not able to go outside. But when they do go outside, they should really know what to do to hopefully prevent something from happening. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a local, and in our foundation, we are focusing on raising awareness for the victims, and also we try to know about why our community is not reporting the hate crime. And then last week I was meeting with the President Biden commission to brought up the problem in the community. So we might doing about the education problem with the youth and the elderly people, why they're not reporting hate crime. And also, our foundation try to expand about rename street Grandpa Vicha Ratanapakdee ways. This is not only the symbolize for my father, but we uplift the community for the Asian AAPI community to be for the next generation to fighting for the racism, discrimination for our no more in our society. Yeah.
Wow. So even though our paperwork is in Missouri, but we are a national 501c3. So, and Gia and Christine represent the Bay Area because Gia is a co-founder. And so, and she, at the time she was in Minneapolis. But the things that we try to do is, and we're still, I should say, all of us started a foundation or a nonprofit based on something that happened to us. So it wasn't like our dream, so you kind of end up building the airplane as it's flying, right? So we're still we have a mission statement, but I feel like we could finesse it, And for us, it's like, since we're journalists founded, we really do try to put actionable change into problems that come to us, but in a way that's, that allows us to keep our jobs as journalists, and to get also buy-in from other people and other communities. So we have the May Book Project, which is an Asian American youth literature guide for all readers. And we did that because we had a panel with students from California, New Jersey, and St. Louis, and they said, we're not being seen in our schools. And then we go to the grocery store and someone tells us, to go back somewhere. And so we got a whole bunch of people together. We need diverse books, the Asian Authors Alliance, the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association, scholars, PhDs, or people who have PhDs in children's literature. And we have this pretty robust book list, rubric, community guide, and then VAF raises money to put books into schools. So we just had our first giving season. We did 80 schools across the country. It impacted about 50,000 students. So if you know anyone who wants books in their libraries, talk to us. And then we'll get corporate sponsors to come in and give us some money so that we can get books into schools. We also have a creators grant, so anyone who has pivoted in their careers, we do a micro grant program. And then honestly, we end up spending a lot of time, taking on like someone asks us to sponsor something, and sometimes that's like $250. Sometimes people just need a small sponsorship, and some people, ask for bigger sponsorship. So we're working, but if you need help, we can totally help. And collaborate. I think a lot of nonprofits have, blossomed out of this time period in the last 3 years, and what we're finding is that many hands do little work. So if we can all collaborate, that's going to help us really get the message. Whatever's happening in LA can still happen in St. Louis, can still happen in New York. So if we can collaborate together, I think that would really help.
Yeah, and I feel that more collaboration and allyship always makes us better together, correct? I know everyone always says that, but it truly is, because where one organization lacks or needs, another one can pick up that pace, right? It's like a relay, but it's like the never-ending relay that never ends, and it never goes anywhere sometimes, it seems. But there is so much support along the way that we need to remember moments in spaces like this. Okay, one more question, right?
Asian
quick one.
Yeah,
Quick
exactly.
question. Does anyone have a quick question? Okay, there we go. Okay, sorry. So much to say.
First, thank you, the three of you, for what you're doing for all of us, first of all. What is one thing that you would want each one of us to do? As women, I know we don't always ask, so if there's one thing that each one of us can do to support you, money, following you, whatever it is, what would that one thing be?
Unrestricted funding. Volunteers, it's so hard. Everyone's so busy, but volunteers are really helpful. And someone who can say, I can do this for you. We've picked up some really great volunteers in the last 6 months, and it's changed like all of our outlooks. It's lifted us up. It's been amazing.
So we're very fortunate. Our organization is 100% volunteer run, and so we actually have about 400 volunteers that assist us with our events, and so we can always use some more volunteers. But right now we're at the point where we're trying to transition to eventually hire on a manager to help us with the social media, the websites, and just to be able to help us expand. So if you're able to donate, that would be great. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so your donations will be tax deductible. But if you'd like to volunteer, that would be great too.
Yeah, for me, website justiceforvicha.org. Yeah, you can visiting and then see my father's story. You know, you can raising his story for our family, and then we want to let his story go the nation. You know, yeah, that's the thing I want to. Yeah.
Can I add one thing too? I actually think just sharing stories on Instagram or TikTok or whatever helps. Helps the algorithm, helps just the word of mouth and the awareness piece. So that's something free, that's very easy to do, and tangible. Yeah.
Yes.
My father's story or Vincent Chen's story, you know, that's very important for our Asian American. Yeah.
And I do want to piggyback sharing videos. I know it's hard for us to continue seeing them, but that's actually the reason why 5 other victims, the man assaulted me, actually recognized the man because people were sharing the videos. Same thing a few weeks ago, our organization shared a picture of one of our core team members' uncle that went missing. Because that post went viral, they were able to locate him within the next 24 hours because someone shared it and they recognized the man. So sharing is very, very important.
It's powerful.
Okay, well, I don't know. I mean, honor right here, like these women right here. Like, I mean, when Hudson asked me to do this, I was like, of course. I couldn't, I mean, how can you even turn down these 3 women and the grace and the courage and the bravery that this is? It allows me to have hope and to keep doing what I'm doing every day. So thank you very much.